It was the kind of night that sucker punched the entire planet. No script, no rehearsal, just a shaky phone camera and Lisa Bonet ripping through nearly 40 years of silence while millions sat frozen. Her hair fell loose, her eyes swollen from crying, and a single flickering lamp cast long, restless shadows. In front of her, a laptop sat paused on an image the world was never meant to see. Her voice cracked like glass. "This has to stop. Bill Cosby is a monster. He harassed me. He terrorized others. And Malcolm knew the truth. That's why he's gone." One keystroke later, grainy backstage footage rolled, Cosby leaning in to whisper something that made her flinch. Fear carved deep into her expression. Then black and white security video, Malcolm Jamal Warner stepping out of a dressing room, Cosby trailing seconds behind before the feed slammed to black. Lisa's hands shook as she repeated his chilling threat. "You'll be a floating body in the water, just like Malcolm." The livestream chat detonated walls of all caps rage, hashtags for justice ricocheting across the globe. Lisa's eyes burned with grief and fury. He took Malcolm's life to protect his secret, and he's still out there, untouched, smiling. The final frame froze on the two men together. Malcolm's smile now reading like a goodbye letter the world never noticed. Then darkness, silence, a collective gasp as millions realized they'd just watched history shift in real time. Hollywood had seen scandals before, sure, but nothing this nuclear. And when that red Lisa Bonet's live notification lit up late that night, there was no teaser, no promo, just chaos waiting to detonate. On Instagram's feed, it began like a whisper, just a few thousand tuning in, expecting a soft nostalgia trip or a harmless chat. But minutes later, the atmosphere flipped. The screen was dim, the light uneven, shadows crawling over the walls like restless ghosts. Lisa Bonet sat at a small wooden table, posture rigid, both hands gripping her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The faint hum of an old lamp filled the silence. Her face carried decades of unspoken weighties, swollen, rimmed with red, lips trembling as if the truth itself might break her. "This has to stop," she whispered, barely audibly, yet those 4 words landed like a sniper shot. The chat detonated. "Stop. What's going on? Are you safe?" But Lisa held steady. She inhaled slowly, like someone bracing for a barefoot walk across glass. "Bill Cosby is a monster, and I can't carry this alone anymore." The comments flew, too fast to read, begging for answers. Lisa's gaze dropped to the laptop before her, frozen on what seemed ordinary until you noticed the decades-old backstage at the Cosby Show. She pressed play. The grainy footage flickered, Cosby leaning into her ear, whispering something that made her recoil, fear tightening her face as her eyes darted like prey seeking escape. "This wasn't a joke," she said, voice shaking. "It wasn't a misunderstanding. He harassed me over and over, and I wasn't the only one." Malcolm Jamal Warner knew he was going to speak. "That's why he's gone." The air in the chat turned to static. Lisa wiped her eyes, then reached for the laptop again. "There's something else. Something I've been too afraid to show." The screen shifted. Another clip began. This time, the footage was black and white CCTV, the time-stamp twitching in the corner like it knew a secret. Malcolm Jamal Warner stepped out of a dressing room, head down, something clutched tight under his arm. 30 seconds later, Bill Cosby emerged, trailing him like a shadow you can't shake. Then the screen snapped to black. The only sound was Lisa's uneven breathing. "I confronted him once," she said, her voice trembling harder now. "I told him I'd go to the press. He looked me dead in the eye and said, 'You'll be a floating body in the water, just like Malcolm.'" The room felt smaller, the shadows heavier. She leaned toward the camera. "Do you understand what that means? Malcolm didn't die in an accident. He didn't drown. He was killed. And Cosby made sure of it." Gasps and rage tore through the chat, people tagging police, newsrooms, anyone who could blast this into every living room. Lisa's hands shook so badly she could barely hold her phone. "I've lived with this fear for years, nights without sleep. Every sound outside my window felt like they were coming for me next." Her eyes closed, breath steadying before she broke again. "I loved Malcolm, not romantically, but as family. We grew up together. We protected each other. The day he told me he had proof, I knew he wouldn't live much longer." The comments flooded. "It's not your fault. We believe you," mixed with furious demands to arrest Cosby. Lisa hit the spacebar. The screen froze on Malcolm and Cosby together, smiling just hours before the tragedy. But now, Malcolm's smile looked like a goodbye he couldn't say out loud. "This is the last footage I have of him alive," she whispered. "And I can't look at it without hearing his laugh." And remembering how it ended, she tilted the camera toward the table stacked with old tapes and a battered USB drive. On the table sat a few worn-out VHS tapes and a weathered USB drive. "I've kept everything, every message, every recording, every scrap of proof, and I was told if I ever opened my mouth, I'd end up like him. But tonight, I'm speaking." Her hands covered her face, muffling sobs, before she looked straight into the lens. "I don't care if this ends me. I care that the world knows the truth. Malcolm was murdered and the man who did it is still free." The viewer count skyrocketed, hundreds of thousands, then millions. Wild celebrity usernames popped up in the corner. News outlets scrambled, screen recording every second of the bombshell unfolding live. Lisa's breathing slowed as she stared at the frozen image of Malcolm on her laptop. The comments scrolling like wildfire: rage, grief, disbelief. Then, without warning, she killed the stream. Black screen, silence, just the echo of her words, the haunting image of Malcolm's final hours, and a question that burned. If Lisa Bonet was telling the truth, how had Bill Cosby gotten away with murder this long? When Lisa ended that live, the world didn't just react, it detonated. Within minutes, clips of her trembling confession flooded TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. News anchors cut into programming to cover it. Headlines screamed, "Lisa Bonet names Bill Cosby in Malcolm Jamal Warner's death." Backstage footage surfaces. Cosby caught following Malcolm. Celebrities, activists, even Cosby Show crew members began dropping cryptic messages of support. One former makeup artist, CCTV clip on loop: Malcolm walking out of the dressing room, Cosby trailing behind, then that jarring cut to black. By morning, millions had watched. Lisa's Instagram followers had doubled overnight, and the world knew there was no putting the genie back in the bottle. Overnight, the frenzy hit full boil. Paparazzi staked out Lisa Bonsoum, while journalists branded it the most damning celebrity confession in decades. But the chaos wasn't just online. Law enforcement finally broke their silence, a police spokesperson issuing a stiff, almost reluctant statement. "We are aware of Ms. Bonet's allegations and are reviewing the material she has presented." Too vague, way too vague. The internet erupted. Hashtag Justice for Malcolm trended in over 30 countries, alongside hashtag Arrest Bill Cosby and hashtag Lisa Told the Truth. Meanwhile, Bill Cosby's legal team scrambled, dropping a cold, carefully sterilized press release. Mr. Cosby categorically denies all allegations, false, defamatory, and a transparent attempt to exploit past controversies. It was icy, calculated, and it didn't slow the avalanche one bit. Anonymous former colleagues began whispering to reporters. One claimed they'd seen Cosby and Malcolm Jamal Warner locked in heated arguments weeks before his death. Another swore Malcolm had confided, "If anything happens to me, check the tapes." Then the tapes started leaking. An independent journalist uploaded a longer cut from the same backstage camera Lisa had shown. In it, Cosby paced outside a dressing room door, restless, until Malcolm emerged looking tense, glancing back over his shoulder. Cosby followed on right before the footage cut. A muffled warning echoed down the hall. "You don't want to do this, Malcolm." The internet lost its collective mind, dissecting the audio, cleaning it up, matching it to Cosby's known voice, and the similarities were undeniable. Lisa stayed silent, but her absence only fed the fire. Media outlets fought for the exclusive. Protesters gathered outside Cosby's mansion, holding signs with Malcolm's face. "He deserves justice." And just when the storm seemed ready to peak, TMZ dropped a leak nobody saw coming. Then came the gut punch: a leaked private email from Malcolm Jamal Warner to Lisa, sent just weeks before his death. "I've got something big, something that could end him. If anything happens to me, promise me you won't stay quiet." The date alone made millions sick. He knew he was planning to speak, and now he was gone. Talk shows milked the email for every ounce of drama, looping it with moody music, slow zooms, and teary-eyed guests reminiscing about Malcolm's laugh, his kindness, the way he always fought for others. Fans flooded social media with tribute edits, his happiest moments on set spliced against Lisa Bonet's live confession. The contrast was crushing. One late-night clip in particular blew up: Malcolm joking about how Bill Cosby always liked to keep secrets. Back then, the audience laughed. Now, that smile felt like a warning. Cosby's camp scrambled, lawyers firing off an emergency. injunction to scrub the footage and the email, screaming fabricated. But the internet doesn't care about legal threats. Once a story catches fire, it burns faster than any court order. Former co-stars faced a choice. Some stood with Lisa, others stayed silent, too scared to move, and in that silence, the truth got louder. Then another bombshell. A retired security guard from the Cosby Show set stepped forward, voice disguised, face in shadow. That night, Malcolm's last night, Ty saw Cosby leaving late. Real late. Angry, sweating, didn't even say goodbye. When asked why he'd never spoken up, the answer was, a dagger. We were told to keep our mouths shut. If you crossed him, you were done. Not just your job, your life. The interview hit like a thunderclap. This wasn't just Lisa anymore, this was a pattern. A decades-old wall of silence was cracking, and the pressure was about to blow. District Attorney's Office finally broke cover. New evidence in Malcolm Jamal Warner's death was under review. Investigators walked into Lisa Bonet's home, leaving with the laptop and tapes that had set the internet on fire. For the first time, reopening the case wasn't just wishful thinking. It was on the table. Outside, Malcolm's memory had morphed into a full-blown movement. Candlelight vigils glowed in Los Angeles, New York, even overseas fans holding his photo high, candles flickering as they chanted, "Justice for Malcolm." Lisa slipped into one vigil quietly, hood pulled low, standing at the back. A fan spotted her, and the crowd parted like a scene from a movie. Hands reached for hers, voices whispered, "Thank you. Stay strong." She broke down, crying openly, surrounded by strangers who now saw her as the voice Malcolm no longer had. This was bigger than an actor's tragic death. It was about Hollywood's rot, the secrets buried by powerful men, and the few brave enough to dig them up. But one last twist still hid in the shadows. One piece of evidence buried deep in Lisa's archives, something capable of turning a tragedy into the most explosive scandal Hollywood had ever seen. And when it came out, there would be no going back. The world thought it had seen the worstliest. Livestream had cracked the dam, the leaked footage, the email, the witnesses, all of it had sent shockwaves through the industry. But no one was ready for what came next. No hype, no promo, just a sudden Instagram post from Lisa. "Tonight, you'll see what Malcolm died for." Minutes later, her live notification blazed red. 10 million people poured in, not just fans, but journalists, celebrities, politicians, even law enforcement watching, as Lisa appeared in that same dimly lit room. This time, the fear was gone from her eyes. She looked worn, but unshakable. "I've been saving this," she said, voice steady but heavy. "I was too afraid to release it before, but Malcolm trusted me with it. And if I keep it hidden any longer, then I'm as guilty as the man who killed him." Lisa Bonet reached for the weathered USB drive, the same one viewers had spotted in her first stream. Her fingers trembled as she slid it into the laptop. "This is Malcolm's insurance file." The screen flickered, revealing a grainy, claustrophobic video. Malcolm Jamal Warner sat in a cluttered apartment, speaking straight into the camera, his tone urgent and low. "If you're watching this, then something happened to me. And it wasn't an accident." Millions leaned closer to their screens, hearts pounding. Bill Cosby isn't who you think he is. Behind the cameras, behind the laughter, there's darkness. I've seen it. I've been threatened, and now I have proof, but I can't go public yet. Lisa, you know where it is. Keep it safe. And if they take me out, promise me you'll show it. Lisa's tears streaked her face as the clip faded, but she wasn't finished. That wasn't all he left. Another video rolled hidden camera footage from what looked like a private party. The quality was awful, but the voices, unmistakable. Cosby's tone was low and sharp. He's getting too bold. You know what to do." The other man nodded. Cosby added, "Make it look like an accident. We can't have another scandal." The livestream detonated, comments in all caps, demands for arrests, tags to the FBI, LAPD, every major news outlet. Lisa froze the frame. That's his voice. That's him ordering Malcolm's death. And for years, this sat hidden because I was terrified. But fear doesn't bring justice. Truth does. The chat flooded faster than the app could keep up, celebrities posting raw reactions, crying on camera, calling it the most chilling thing they'd ever seen. And then, Lisa leaned forward. Then Lisa dropped the kill shot. "There's one more clip." The screen shifted to black and white security footage, timestamp locked on the night Malcolm Jamal Warner died. A new angle, a different hallway. Malcolm walked through, glancing over his shoulder. Seconds later, Bill Cosby appeared, motioning to someone off. Silence until a faint thud echoed down the hall, followed by 4 words that froze the chat. No more problems. Lisa's hand flew to her mouth as the clip ended, the screen going dark. When she looked back, her eyes were red but burning with fire. You've seen it, you've heard it. Don't let them bury this. Malcolm deserves better. We all do. Then stream over. The internet didn't just react, it detonated. Every platform flooded with the footage. News channels cut regular programming to loop it nonstop. Coasters who'd stayed silent were cornered for answers, and for the first time, the authorities couldn't hide. The district attorney's office is reopening the investigation into the death of Malcolm Jamal Warner. Mr. Cosby will be questioned. It was the headline the world had been waiting for. Protesters outside Cosby's home erupted, cheers, tears, strangers hugging. Vigils morphed into rallies, chants of justice for Malcolm shaking the streets. But even as hope surged, fear seeped in. Whispers of retaliation surfaced, anonymous threats to journalists, warning them to drop the story. Lisa vanished into hiding, her team confirming only that she was safe. Still, she posted a simple Instagram story for Malcolm. Until the end, the case became a global fixation. Talk shows dissecting every frame, analysts confirming the audio matched Cosby's voice. Social media shifted from #JusticeForMalcolm to calls for a reckoning with Hollywood's culture of cover-ups and corruption. And through it all, one truth stood tall, surviving decades of silence, threats, and intimidation. It was finally too loud to kill. Now that it was out, it could never be erased. The world had watched a man speak from beyond the grave, watched the woman who loved him, like family, gamble everything to honor his last wish, and watched the fortress shielding one of entertainment's most untouchable figures finally crack. Outside Malcolm's old home, candles glowed against the night, and one sign said it all: you can kill a man, you can't kill the truth. If you're watching this, you have a choice: scroll past and let it drown in the noise, or stand up for it. A man whose voice was stolen. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't just die, he was taken. Tonight, you saw the proof. You heard the words. You felt the fear in Lisa Bonet's voice, the tremble in her hands, the weight of decades of buried secrets breaking open. And you know what that means. It means the truth is in our hands now. Every share, every comment, every raised voice makes it harder for them to bury this. They've relied on fear, distraction, and silence for years. So let's prove them wrong. Flood the comments with #JusticeForMalcolm. Share this until every corner of the globe knows. Tag networks, tag journalists, tag anyone with a platform. This isn't just about one man, it's about every victim told to shut up, every truth bought and buried. If your heart's pounding right now, if your stomach's in knots, don't ignore it. That's your conscience telling you this can't disappear. Malcolm can't speak anymore, but you can. And to the man who thought the truth would die with him, look around. Millions are watching. Millions are speaking. And we're not stopping until justice is served.